Well, hey friends, Pastor Jordan here. It is Ash Wednesday 2026. Before we kind of get into the day, I wanted to share a few thoughts for you as we reflect on the significant day in our Christian faith. Yesterday was Mardi Gras, and today is the start of Lent, and those two are connected, right? This great indulgence before the great fasting begins. And as I was reflecting on Ash Wednesday and all of this, I was remembering a story and a time and a conversation with my grandfather. And I've talked about my grandfather before, so some of you may have heard this before, but I think this is such a fitting story. He was a farmer in southwest Minnesota. And as a kid, we would spend a fair amount of time during summers on he and my grandmother's farm where my mom grew up and where we had these really strong ties. Where I could walk around and see these massive trees that were planted when my mom was a kid on this place with deep history. And there was one time where I can't remember in the garden or if we were playing kind of out near the fields, and I made a comment of like, ew, I've got dirt on me or something like that, as kids do, right? Because we're always getting messy. And my grandfather lovingly but firmly scolded me in that moment. He said, that is not dirt, that is soil. And there is a massive difference between the two. And that moment has stuck with me. That lesson has stuck with me because dirt is ground. It is the stuff we see everywhere, but soil has a very different implication. My grandfather spent his lifetime caring for and tending the soil. It was what he and my grandmother made a living off of. It was producing food and vegetation out of a pile of brown stuff. And when I called it dirt, it wasn't just naming what that thing was. It was also speaking to a value system and a way of interacting with the world. Since then, I've come to know that there was something very, very true in what my grandfather was saying. That soil is organic. It is alive. There are various microorganisms and other things growing in the soil that makes it what it is. And southwest Minnesota has some of the most fertile soil in the world. This is a part of our earth that produces like very few other places on the planet. And it's not just because the geography is nice and flat. It's not just because the climate works well for growing certain crops. It's also the nutrients and the minerals and all the stuff that's in this soil that makes it the perfect place to grow. And this word that we often translate dust in Scripture actually pushes closer to the word soil than to the word dirt. It is the place that holds the potential for all life, right? When in the beginning, and we're going to talk about this more, we kind of touched on it a bit last week, and we're going to talk more about it this coming Sunday. God gathers up this stuff, right, and breathes into it. And the breath of God, for sure, is the animating force in this. But there is a potential in this stuff that God has gathered that gives the conditions for life. And so today, as we reflect on Ash Wednesday, as we reflect on this idea of gathering and remembering we are dust, I think there's something significant in remembering the finite nature of life, that we have a short time on this planet and to ask ourselves, what are we going to do with this? But I also think there's value in thinking about this as moments of soil. If instead of saying, you are dust and to dust you shall return, if there's something that shifts in us, we start to think about soil and that we are soil and we came from the soil and we will return to the soil. And instead of it just being this short, finite timeline where we have breath and life on this planet, it actually becomes, how are we part of the generative flow of the universe? How do we, both in mind and body and spirit, continue to leave legacy and impact that extends our chronology? And so today, as you think about this idea of ashes and soil and all of it, and look towards Lent and the concepts of death and resurrection and all these things that are such a key part of this season, I wonder if maybe this is about soil this year. About reflecting and taking time, saying, what might God be seeing as the potential waiting to be born out in me? What is the unique calling that God has placed on my life? How have I been uniquely positioned to impact my world? To speak into the lives of those around me that God has placed me in close proximity to? When we teach about the Apostle Paul, the Apostle Paul made a huge impact in the world. He is the one who really kind of brought the message of Jesus to the Gentile world, of which, as a Western Christian, I am part of. Without Paul's work there, to advance this message from kind of a Jewish-centric message and a reformation within Judaism to this whole movement that was bigger, we don't know, and I don't mean this hyperbolically, we don't know what the world would look like today. But the reason why Paul was able to do this is because he had a really unique gifting and really unique makeup. For Paul, he was Jewish by religion, he was Roman by citizenship, and he was philosophically Greek. And in the melding of those three things, we have the Apostle Paul, and we have the potential for what the movement of Jesus would become beyond Jesus' life. This is the soil that was in Paul's life. These three unique identities that made it possible for him to literally change the world. And so as you reflect on ashes, as you reflect on dust, as you reflect on dirt and on soil, what is your unique makeup? Where are the areas where you have been uniquely created and gifted and called and had life experiences that can be used to advance the truly good news of the way of Jesus Christ? I'd encourage you to take time to reflect on that today. And today at the church, from around 10 o'clock, hopefully, about 45 minutes here, I'm going to be hanging out until midway through the afternoon. Curtis is going to be here for a section after that and while I'm here. And we're here to pray with you, to sit with you. We'll probably just have some music happening in the auditorium, to do the imposition of ashes, whatever it is you need on this Ash Wednesday. To remember the fully orbed conversation around dust and soil.